Most people in life are interested in sampling different foods. We're often interested in trying a new food group, a new type of restaurant, and openly, sometimes the people who run those places are trying to give us free samples. The challenge we run into this summer is that we often like to go to festivals, we like to walk in the community, and we're tempted with free food. The question is free food really free? What I mean by that is that sometimes there are people who will do things to food to harm an individual. When I was traveling in Japan, we used to watch film in the airports that showed how a person would taint food and literally cause a person to fall asleep. There was always this video of a young woman who got a free sample of a cookie from someone who was traveling too, and then she woke up hours later to find much of her property gone. That is a concern of some people in this land. They are worried about that. It is also how human trafficking can occur, and that's something that some of my family members participates in kind of working towards preventing. But in life, we have to know how to handle ourselves. We have to be able to be allowed to decline free food. Last evening, I was offered a free pizza and breadsticks. I really didn't want them. I was actually quite full from the food that I had already eaten, and I did my best to decline, but at the same time, I wanted to be polite to the man who was trying to gift me food. I did sample the pizza a little bit. I thought it was pretty good, but the truth is, it was a risk to me and it was a risk to him. Now, the difference between me and him is probably significant. He goes home to a home or an apartment and he sleeps indoors. I, on the other hand, have had lies put against my name and don't have the same luxury, and it was a pretty rainy and stormy, blistery night last night. I do have a new way to care for myself in those circumstances, but I can tell you that people do try and come up on you in the middle of the night. It has absolutely been proven to me as of last night because of a new system I put in place that allowed me to know that someone was coming near me while I was asleep. You see, in life and in America, we should have the right to sit down and take a rest without anyone thinking they have the right to come up and violate our body, violate our pockets, violate our personhood, or literally violate the bags in which we carry with us. And that's something that Marx Law, something I've been talking about for a while, is supposed to protect. Now, when we're talking about free food, what is it that we're really concerned about? Well, a lot of things. We're concerned about, is the food actually in good date? I can remember when I went to a Chicago festival and I tried some lamb that I was ultimately utterly, miserably sick after eating that lamb. I was trying to sample something new from a foreign land, but I didn't really think about how hot it was. I didn't really think about how the people who were preparing the food might not have really had the appropriate degree, the appropriate certification, the appropriate understanding of SafeServe, which is a national organization, I believe, in terms of knowing how to keep food safe. At the same time, I learned the hard lesson of not to take on sample foods and certainly not to buy foods of nature that could give me difficulties in my bowel system. Now, when I'm talking about this, I'm of course giving you fair warning. I'm saying there's going to be a lot of neat events to go to around the community and in different parts of the state and probably in other states where you'll travel to with your families, with your friends, with your colleagues. But in truth, we also have some new products coming into the marketplace that are helping people to sleep, that are helping people to do better things in their lives and take away pain. But sometimes those ideas, those new technologies, those new sciences are utilized for malintent. So I guess what I'm saying is, as you go out into the community and as you're given free samples of things, take great care to pay attention to who's preparing the food, how do they feel to you, do they feel like something is afoot, and openly at the same time, be careful in what you do after you sample that food. Something I have learned in my travels that if someone's going to give me free food of any kind, or even if I'm paying a very modest rate for it, the best thing you can do is always to take the food with you and eat it elsewhere, as opposed to eating it right there in a newly established restaurant or a place you've never been very often. Because without that relationship with the owner, without the relationship with the legally liable, responsible employees, even with those, you have a risk. That is one of the safest ways to handle anything, even in fast food. I know that traveling in the state of Indiana, particularly when I still had a vehicle before it was illegally and unlawfully impounded, was that people tainted my beverage or my food in fast food, and I literally was drifting asleep. I'm not someone who falls asleep at the wheel. And I've had a difficulty after that happened to me. I had to literally pull over, sadly, in a podunk town, and everything within my being and within my quiet voice in my soul said, don't pull over here. But I couldn't help it. It was either that or have an accident on the road. And after that, I had a horrible time with local officials because they just wouldn't leave me alone. And thankfully, it was a freezing day, but they inappropriately handled me. Now, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about real life, I'm talking about real things, I'm talking about real safety precautions, and I'm talking about real news. I'm no different than any newscaster is probably true. I went to journalism school. I've literally moved my life into that realm and also in the realm of political consulting. But when we're going even to those events, we have to be cautious. And I'll talk a little bit more about something I noticed last evening in a neat experience that I had. But we'll talk more later. Thanks for listening. I hope you have a safe, wonderful summer season.